For the first time since 2004, your Philadelphia Eagles are 4-0, and they're the only undefeated team in the NFL remaining after a 29-21 win over the Jacksonville Jaguars at Lincoln Financial Field. We're going to recap it next on the Locked On Eagles postgame show.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Eagles fans, to the postgame show. This is Locked On Eagles. We thank you so much for making LOE your first listen each and every day. And today's episode is presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. Gino, another win for the Eagles. Like I said, they're 4-0 for the first time since 2004. They beat another guy on the revenge tour in Doug Pederson. But this win came in a different fashion. It was raining. It was windy. The Eagles were down 14-0 early to the Jaguars. Injuries down the list. Isaac Seumalo, Jordan Mailata, Darius Slay. But the Eagles find a way. 29 unanswered points, 5 turnovers, 22 points off of those turnovers. That was an awesome win to see this team overcome adversity and just, they never lose their composure, man. This was very similar to week 1 against Detroit, where they're down by multiple scores and nothing rattles them. It's kind of very much like the 2017 team where they just have this switch that they can turn on whenever they want, right?
This game, it was very poetic in many different ways. First off, Doug Pederson coming back, but this game in itself, I felt embodied a bunch of different games throughout the last 10 years or so. Let's just say what it is with Jacksonville, 2014, going back, you start out, you're down 17-0 going into halftime. Very reminiscent of that game. You go to the injuries within the first couple snaps. Jordan Mailata is out of the game. Avonte Maddox was already out. Darius Slay was already out. That felt like that 2019 matchup against Atlanta, where before you know it, you're down to basically, it was Nelson Aguilar was your only receiver healthy on the field in that game. And this game, to me, it embodied what Doug set up for Nick Sirianni to then take the reins on. And the quote he said to Jalen Hurts, when he was talking to Jalen Hurts, and Jalen said, "I wouldn't be here without you, Doug," when he was talking to him. And I mean, that's exactly right. This franchise wouldn't be in the position it is in today. We wouldn't have, like the sweater I'm wearing right now, we wouldn't have a Super Bowl without Doug Pederson. And a lot of those lessons that you learned in Doug's tenure, the ability to overcome adversity, much like the Super Bowl year where you're out all of these guys, things aren't going your way necessarily the whole game. Nick Sirianni has put his little flavor to it, but the building blocks are there, and you have seen the evolution of how far they have come as a franchise. And I know Jacksonville, they looked much better than they have in the past, but I just got to say this. There was some trash talk between Jags fans and our mentions on YouTube. Tony Wiggins over at Locked On Jaguars. I wore this for a reason, Super Bowl 52. This is just a reminder of what would have happened if they played in that Super Bowl, a reminder of what happened in 2014, a reminder of what happened in 2018, and a reminder of what happened today. You got to learn to walk before you can run. And the Eagles, they're running right now.
They're clearly the seasoned winner
teams
between those two teams, for sure. What Doug Pederson started, but what Nick Sirianni did last year in 2021 and this year too. Gino, it was just awesome to see them. And I was at the game. The weather was horrible. To see them down multiple scores.
You had a good seat though, brother. You got under the roof.
It pays to be cheap today. I was up in the nosebleeds, but I had a roof under the banners. But it was just good to see them win in that kind of adversity because, you know, last week, what did we see? Them blow out Washington because of the passing game. In week 2, kind of the same thing. It was good to see them win in a gritty fashion too, because you got to be able to win in any kind of matchup. And that's what I love about this Eagles team is the passing game was what we wanted to see. And we saw that the last 2 weeks, But today was great reassurance to know, again, as I've said a lot on this podcast, that when they need to be, this Eagles team is still the number one rushing attack in the NFL. The Jacksonville Jaguars came into this game as the number one running defense. Miles Sanders had 134 yards today, averaging 5 yards a carry with 2 touchdowns. They surpassed over 200 yards total on the ground today with 4 rushing touchdowns. They needed that with the weather, with the offensive line struggling to pass protect, right? Jack Driscoll at left tackle, Sua Opeta at right guard. They took over. And it wasn't just Sanders. Jalen Hurts, gritty with those, big runs, absorbing contact. Overall, just a true character win for this team against a good team with a coach that wanted revenge.
A team that had everything going against it. Early on, you go down super early. You're down 14-0, and then in the blink of an eye. But they never let off. They continued to play their game. They never got outside of their identity. And in football, it is the weirdest thing in the world, man. All it takes is a little bit of momentum. You get that first fumble on Trevor Lawrence. You get another one. You end up getting an interception. You're able to impose your will on defense while at the same time on offense adapting in a way where Nick Sirianni has almost this on-off switch where he can just say, we're shutting this down and we are going to become the best rushing attack in football. And Jordan Mailata goes out early. You saw what they were doing on the edge between Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker, getting at Jack Driscoll. But then they said, all right, Jack can run block. We can run that way. They ran behind their guys, and credit to Stout for getting these guys ready in these positions, which has happened before in Philadelphia, going back to 2017, going back to every year Jason Peters was here. They overcome adversity on the offensive line. And when you trust your guys and you don't go away from running behind that, like they never shied away from running behind Driscoll. Even when Sua Opeta came in, they were running his way. That gives confidence to Miles Sanders to know that he can hit the hole and be a confident runner. And that confidence today, Lou, I think this was the best game he's ever had as an Eagle.
Miles Sanders his flowers, man.
Dude,
this guy.
On the one where he got tripped up on that little dump pass to the middle of the field, he had that look in his eye that I always say, that home run hitter where
he looked like LaShawn McCoy out there today.
Yeah,
I'm like,
did.
Is that shady? He should have been wearing number 25 instead of 26. The cuts he was making, and outside of maybe 1 or 2 plays where he bounced it outside prematurely, I thought every decision he made, when to stick his foot in the ground and get upfield versus when to cut, was spot on. 27 carries today, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 yards a carry. Miles Sanders, to me, the injuries you can criticize him for, but for some reason, I think he was the most unfairly criticized Eagle this offseason based on performance. When he is on the field, Miles Sanders is a great player. And, you tweeted it out. This looked like a guy in a contract year that wanted to get paid.
Absolutely so. I mean, you can't say otherwise that he doesn't have a little bit of a point to prove because of all this unfair criticism, which rightfully so. He's one of the most explosive runners in football.
And efficient.
And now with that efficiency metric to it as well to back that up, he is one guy that you put the ball in his hand, he is going to get you positive yardage for this Eagles team. And the continuity in play calling, the continuity in offensive line play, and you're down 2 guys on the offensive line and you're still able to put up 210 yards collectively on the ground. That's a great job coaching. It's a great job of development, and rightfully so. Miles Sanders, the way he's running, it's smart, it's fast. He lets things develop in front of him. And I think the biggest token to who he is as a player is when he gets contacted, he does not go down at first contact anymore.
Way more physical.
You can't have an arm tackle. You got to have 2 to 3 guys in there because he's going to run his legs. There was the one play where he's running backwards and Isaac Seumalo literally picks him up and drags him backwards to get more yards. And that's the mentality you want in Philadelphia. Downfield, hard-nosed running. In the rain, it's going to happen. This is your second, 4 rushing touchdowns today, Lou?
Again? Yep, that's Detroit week 1, and then today. Miles Sanders had 2. Jalen Hurts had 1. By the way, that was on 4th and goal. Must-have play down 14-0. So clutch. Only Josh Allen runs that physical.
You don't remember he squats 600 pounds,
right?
So you might want to get a little lower on the guy.
And then Kenny Gainwell had a rushing touchdown too. And even Trey Sermon today, only 2 carries, and he had 19 yards. His running style, I'm like, is that Jay Ajayi out there? I thought Trey Sermon looked good. Honestly, the running game is like, with the Avengers, to make a Marvel comparison, it's like Hulk. Everything is very strategic, and then when things get out of whack, they're like, let's go get the big green guy to go just
smash
everything.
him in the face.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's the last ditch effort. Like, nothing else is working that we prefer to do first. Let's make a mess. Let's get messy with the Hulk. That's what the Eagles running offense is. And you saw that today, again, against the number one rushing defense. It was strength against strength, and the Eagles' strength prevailed.
They were just letting up over 50 yards per game. The Eagles quadrupled that in a single game, just to put that into perspective. Yeah. And the ability to go 1 week to start it off in Detroit, 4 rushing touchdowns. The next week you go out pass heavy. The next week you go out pass heavy again. You try to start out with the pass. You realize in the conditions, which, by the way, why they were passing so much in 19-mile-per-hour winds, which they showed right in the first quarter, it blew my mind that they were trying to do that much, as well as they were running the ball. But then they said, okay, we are going to commit to this thing that we happen to do very well. We have 3-4 guys that could carry the ball in all different fashions. They got the read option game going to a T. That really took over for them when the RPOs weren't working. It was straight. We're reading the edge. It's either going to Miles or it's either going to Jalen. And that seemed to work. Something that we hadn't seen much in the past, but they worked it in, and they got it done in a way where might not have been what we expected. Like you said, it might be like a food that you try.
But that's what the game called for.
Yeah, it's not the taste I wanted, but I'm not upset about it. Like, I'm not mad at this game at all.
And it's like, you're picking off a menu, though, of a restaurant that you have to eat at because this is just where you are in a certain, middle of nowhere town. This is the best of what you got. And it's very hard to beat a team like the Eagles that can do everything. And that's really what they did today to win 29-21 over the Jacksonville Jaguars, getting to 4-0 again for the first time since 2004. They are the only undefeated team left in the NFL. It wasn't just the running attack, though, Gino, that really took over this game and allowed them to score 29 unanswered to erase a 14-0 deficit early. The defense completely took over. We'll get into that coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles. But guys, first, a shout out to our sponsor of the day. It's PrizePicks Daily Fantasy. It works like this: 2 to 5 players, you're going to choose a week. And if they're going to score more or less than their PrizePicks projection, you're going up to 10 times your money on your entry, no competing with anybody, just you versus the projection. PrizePicks offers projections on any sport you watch too: NBA, NHL, MLB, soccer, you name it, available at PrizePicks. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less, and they've safe and fast withdrawals too. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks is going to give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks is going to give you $50. Don't forget, enter the promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100 at prizepicks.com. All right, Eagles fans, it's the postgame show. Locked On Eagles, Gino Camilleri, Louis DiBiase. It's always fun doing the postgame show when the Eagles are undefeated. 29-21 win at the Link over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Gino, we talked about, this team was early on in a 14-0 hole. Jordan Mailata went to the locker room. Darius Slay got hurt. So you already had Josiah Scott playing in the slot against Christian Kirk. You've got now Zach McPherson on the outside. Isaac Seumalo eventually goes down. Devontae Smith rolled his ankle, and he was banged up. So you're down by multiple scores, all these injuries. The weather it was like the Jaguars. It was like the weather was in Florida with the hurricane right now. I mean, the fact that was in Philadelphia was crazy. But
like Buffalo 2019.
And that was the game we were at in 2019 together. It gave me very similar vibes. Miles Sanders takes over. But the defense had to come up big because the offense was stalling a bit early on. 5 turnovers today that led to 22 points, including 2 strip sacks from Haason Reddick that included the game winner. And that was a crazy finish, Gino. You thought Jake Elliott's going to kick the field goal. They're going to go up by 2 scores with under 2 minutes left. They win. But Elliott got roughed up on the kick before, so maybe he was hurt. Either way, the Eagles go for it on 4th and 3. They don't get it. The Jaguars have a chance down 8 to tie it up. But Haason Reddick plays the hero and finishes the game with that strip sack. Overall, the defense completely took over. And 9 turnovers this year with just 8 touchdowns allowed is such a missing link this Eagles team did not have for years.
And it's coming from Everybody. Too. I mean,
James Bradberry, that pick, he jumped that pass from Mars. How far he came down the field.
I know. He's an incredibly smart defender, man, and he showed that off today. Fletcher Cox just continues to impose his dominance across offensive lines. Jawan Taylor was at right tackle against Haason Reddick, and Jawan Taylor's had a pretty productive season so far this year. But Haason Reddick, as I said about Javon Hargrave in that early part of the season last year, I'm making my claim now. If that guy is not an all-pro, I would be shocked, because it seems that they've found what he does best.
Yeah.
And clearly what you paid him for, which shouldn't have been anything tricky to figure out, was to rush the passer. And what did he do today, Lou? The game was on the line, reminiscent of that Super Bowl, right? Game's on the line. You need your best player to step up in the biggest moment of the game. You don't want to give that team even a glimmer of hope, even one, let's say, 15-yard pass to get them down the field a little bit. And Haason Reddick said, no, I'm making this play. He got around the edge, bending cornered. His ability to just locate the football at the high point when he's attacking the quarterback does that twice in this game. The defense has figured it out. They really have figured it out.
Because the defensive line was the last unit, to figure it out. The secondary and the linebackers were great the first 2 weeks, but the last 2 weeks, the four-man rush had to figure it out, and man, have they. I mean, Reddick specifically has 3 strip sacks in 2 weeks.
And Jonathan Gannon has figured out what his base to blitz ratio is. He's not somebody that's going to be a high volume blitzer, but when he does, I mean, that's what happened on the interception. He sends a timely blitz. Lawrence has to figure it out. He realizes that this guy has to choose between going deep on number 1 or coming underneath for number 2. And James Bradberry, who's so smart, he's seen this before. He's watched film. He gets football. He baited that thing. I mean, just like a mouse to cheese in a mousetrap, basically. And that, when you are down Darius Slay and Avonte Maddox, is the luxury of having that type of player where guys want to come here and be that guy where in 2 or 3 games you might be the hero. James Bradberry realistically has been the hero in a couple games.
Well, yeah, because the Jaguars are down 1 score and they're in Eagles territory before that. Or I should say, no, They were down 2 scores, but they were knocking on the door to make it a 1-possession game. And James Bradberry was 10, 15 yards deep. It stinks that, and I think they're going to keep most of them, but there are a lot of pending free agents this offseason that are absolutely killing it. And Bradberry's one of those guys. He looks like the 2020 version that was an all-pro.
How he got out of New York and came to a division rival.
I mean, just straight out released
bad housekeeping. Bad housekeeping. And he was never a bad player. He was in a bad situation. Now he's in a good situation on a team that plays to said players' strengths, and you're seeing that. I think Jordan Davis, they've kind of figured out what he can do right now.
Today against the run. Those 2 plays he blew up. I mean, the sheer force and strength of that kid inside is – the snaps are going to continue to increase. He's been heating up too the last 2 weeks.
Against the run, he's going to get more involved against the pass. Fletcher Cox looked dominant. Javon Hargrave looked more explosive than he has all season, in my opinion, today. The linebackers, of course, look excellent. Kaiser White, another pass deflected today. TJ Edwards, once again, does not miss any tackles. I would say the only real down spot would be tackling, especially Chauncey Gardner-Johnson didn't look great tackling today. Yeah. Still could do better. Just getting leverage outside. I think they still tend to do that. They over pursue a bit. But as a whole, situationally, the defense has been the belle of the ball the last 2 weeks and bailed the offense out in situations where they do stall. But the Eagles offense, they scored enough points. I mean, 29 points is enough to win a football game. And the defense,
especially in those conditions, you know what I mean?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, you have to hope
every day. Yeah.
You have to hope that your team can hold them to 14 to 20 points and you could score 24 or above. I didn't expect them to get to 29. I thought it would have been a bit sloppier. I predicted 2017. But the Eagles came out on top thanks to the unit that set the tone for so many years in the early 2000s. What this team's identity was, it was defense. The offensive identity only really came about in the late 2000s, Chip Kelly era, then Doug Pederson. Now, once again, they are getting to, like you said, On offense, they'll hit you. They'll be like the Hulk. They'll come up and make things messy for you. On defense, I'd say they're more a bit like Doctor Strange. They're able to do different things and make you think and make you, for a split second, realize that maybe I can make that play, but they'll trick you into not making it. Maybe they'll make you hold on to it for a split second because you think you have a coverage coming open down the field, and then all of a sudden Haason Reddick is on your backside forcing a fumble, and Fletcher Cox is continuing to dominate interiors. Josh Sweat just continues to not even hear his name heard because he's just doing his job and he's in the right area. And Jonathan Gannon, hats off to him the last 2 weeks, man. This defense has turned it around big time.
And they adjusted, because you look at early,
they
Doug
have.
Pederson was dialing it up.
By the way,
drives,
classic Doug, first 15 plays look fantastic, and then he just absolutely loses his marbles after that.
Yeah, it was the defense adjusted beautifully. And I like to see, last week it was cool to see Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox, the old-time heroes, right? The long-term core of the defensive line, 4th and 5th all-time in sacks, right? It was cool to see them kind of win that game against Washington. And it was cool today to see the new additions really help you win that game. Haason Reddick, James Bradberry, overall Jordan Davis too, making it really hard on James Robinson and Travis Etienne. Those guys stepped up big. So this was a win for Howie Roseman too, to see the job he did this offseason that came to fruition on the field today. Even with like Trey Sermon, Boston Scott goes down and he steps up. AJ Brown led the way again with 95 receiving yards. Tough catches over the middle.
Almost 100-yard day. That's unbelievable.
It was just a collective team win, and that looked like a proven winner that isn't a fluke. When you win that kind of game in that kind of situation against a better team that people give credit for, they've won any kind of way you want now, Gino. This team is truly as multiple as you can get.
They beat 3 NFC opponents. They have now beat one of the better AFC South teams.
Yeah, they haven't beat any juggernauts, but those are 4 pretty solid teams they beat.
Doug Pederson with the emotional element to it. You can't wipe this game away.
Yeah.
You can't just look past this game and say, oh, we have the Cardinals next week. No, we have to handle our business against a former coach who you knew by the way those guys came out in the first couple drives that they were playing for Doug Pederson. And they were playing to ride that momentum that they had. But sometimes momentum runs into a brick freaking wall, and that's what the Philadelphia Eagles are right now. They're able to do things when they're leading. They're able to come from behind and score 29 unanswered points after being down 14-0, suffering multiple injuries, just nothing working on offense. The team's units are still a mess. And at the end of the day, it was the team that has been through the adversity, the team that has gone through the war, the team that knows how to win in late situations. Yeah, they didn't convert on that last 4th down, Lou, but that's a game-winning mentality. We're not in games to lose. We're not in games to play it safe. We are in games to win. And everything they did today was within their identity, and they did it pretty freaking well, man. After they allowed 14 points, the rest of that game was pretty darn solid.
It was a great win. The Eagles are 4-0 now, 29-21 victory over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Gino, when we come back and wrap up the show, we'll take a first look at next week against Arizona. And I want to get a little bit into Jalen Hurts' performance against the Jaguars.
All that coming up to finish up this week of shows. Jacksonville week is over. And right before the game, I woke up early and I was watching Formula One, Man City, and I got caught up, and all of a sudden it's 11 o'clock here and the game's on. And I said, I got to get something in my system. So you know what I had? Built Bar. They sent us 3 new flavors. These are all unbelievable, and they're all the puffs. And we've been preaching the word of Built Bar for years. But these ones, the cookie dough chunk puffs, Lou and I live and breathe by these things. They are better than most actual cookies you can buy at a store. Not only are they nutritious, they are delicious as well, covered in 100% real chocolate. They don't taste like chalk. They taste like a genuine candy bar, all while you're getting the benefits of a ton of protein, little in calories, little in sugar, little in carbohydrates, and you could get whatever flavor that you want. They have their original flavors, they have their puff flavors, and they have their granola flavors, and you can get all of those today at built.com using the promo code LOCKEDON15. That's LOCKEDON15. You could get 15% off your order. get a variety pack, get your favorite flavor. Just make sure you send Locked On Eagles. Thank you by using our promo code.
This is the Locked On Eagles post-game show. Your Philadelphia Eagles are undefeated, 29-21 win over Doug Pederson and the Jacksonville Jaguars to get to 4-0. The Eagles are now 4-0 as well in revenge games, Gino. They beat Staley week 1. They beat Jalen Reagor and Justin Jefferson, you could say, week 2. They beat Carson Wentz week 3, Doug Pederson week 4. Next week, they got Zach Ertz and the Arizona Cardinals. So it keeps rolling here. It's the revenge tour of 2022.
Somebody's got to make a shirt of that. I mean, we might have to at Locked On Eagles.
It should be like the Grim Reaper, and it's just knocking on the door of like all these former Eagles. This is what they've always done. They beat D-Jax.
Yep.
The only guy that really beat them was McNabb. They beat Dawkins, LaShawn McCoy. They don't lose revenge games.
They do not, and especially not in Lincoln Financial Field either. And the revenge tour will continue on next week, but not only does it continue on to Arizona against Zach Ertz, you then go on and take the current 3-1 Cooper Rush-led, potentially Dak Prescott-led Dallas Cowboys in what could be a pivotal point of the season. We say all these games are huge. Getting off to this 4-0 start is big, but the NFC East is smoking it right now. 4-0 Eagles, 3-1 Cowboys, 3-1 Giants, and then Carson Wentz just forgot how to play football. He's 1-3 over there in Washington.
No, for sure. The NFC East is way better, man.
You got to take revenge on all these teams. And Dallas, the team that bested you last year, the team that has had your number with Jalen Hurts, he's got to come out now and prove why he is the next great quarterback in this division.
He looks like it,
and
man.
Just continue to. And today, Lou, he didn't do it with his arm, throwing for 300 plus yards. The throws he made were on target. The tight end screen, the ball was perfect to Dallas Goedert. Should have had another touchdown pass to Dallas Goedert. But the reason we continue to believe in this kid and why we say you win because of Jalen Hurts is embodied in what he did on that touchdown run. 4th and goal,
absorbing
we
3
need
hits.
Something. Putting his shoulder down, saying, I'm getting in this end zone
Devin
one
Lloyd,
way or
who's
another.
A big linebacker, Gino. That was.
And Devin Lloyd's like
impressive.
25 years old coming out of college too. Like he's no little kid. He's no 20-year-old.
And he's PFF's
first year.
He's a top-tier PFF linebacker right now, according to the grades. Yeah, Hurts overall, the passing game wasn't amazing, but it was going to be tough in this environment. I was more impressed with his composure, being down 14-0, doing the easy things in the passing game, and taking over with his legs when you really needed it. It wasn't a sexy performance, but I thought, again, he does not get rattled. I thought early on he looked like the 2021 version of Jalen Hurts. He was bailing early pockets. They were flushing him to the left. He was getting blitzed. I thought the vision on that interception, I don't know what he was looking at.
Insane.
He threw it to Zach, in double coverage. The throw was late. It was behind
in
Pascal.
the rain, in the wind,
right?
To Pascal, nonetheless.
So it looked really bad to start, but he really reined things in, and he still finished the game. It's not like he did what he did against Washington, but he finished 16 of 25 for 204 yards. In those conditions against that defense, with Devontae Smith banged up and with everybody dropping passes, as you mentioned, Goddard could have had a touchdown that was dropped. I still think that's a pretty good performance, and it's more, again, about the character today and just about the situation. You want to know your quarterback thrives in those environments, and Jalen certainly does.
I think we learned 2 things today: that there's an evident trust between everybody on this team. Everybody in the organization just seems to know what the end goal is. And 2, that you can teach an old dog new tricks. Like this is another new way to win. It's just continuing to add on to all that adversity you faced the last couple years.
Just another test pass, man. They just keep checking everything off the box.
It's just another punch on the jaw that you took and kept moving forward. Like Nick Sirianni preaches, it's a new round every single week. This round, it wasn't great. This is one where you might have been down on the scorecard, but late in the round, you got a knockout punch and you put that guy down and you said, okay, we got through this one. The bell might have saved you. We got to get to next week and perform and continue to improve, because the thing is, they still haven't put together a perfect 4 quarters of football.
True.
When they do, that's going to be, everything we could ask for. What more could they do? They're putting up 29 unanswered when down 14. If they put together 2 good first drives, do they potentially get to 42 in this game? Do they potentially score after that roughing the kicker on Jake Elliott in better conditions? That's the things you have to contextualize. And the MVP in my eyes, Jake Elliott, top 3 kicker in Eagles history. I'll say that right now. I think he is genuinely the best at his position in the NFL over the last couple of years outside of Justin Tucker. You don't win a Super Bowl without Jake Elliott, and you don't win a lot of games the last 2 seasons for as good as he's been. A Pro Bowler last year, should be in the contention to be an All-Pro this year. I mean, that's a big-time kick coming out after you just got roughed up, hitting it against the wind.
He must have been banged up, Gino, because why else would they have went for it on that 4th and 3 when
you were at the game. You didn't see anything that was going on. He got smoked. And
so I saw him laying down
the field. He was taking Tylenol on the side. Like, they had to give him Tylenol on the sidelines. He couldn't really move.
Like,
it was a whole thing.
Field goal. Yeah, no,
yes,
that's
exactly.
Crazy. Yeah, so I mean, again, it was just like a great team win, just character wins for so many different players. I can't wait to do stock up, stock down tomorrow. That really did sell me that this could be a legitimate team. Not that I wasn't already bought in, but that was just another situation, as we've said, that you just want to know your team can win in many different ways. And we know with Philadelphia, they can do it through the air. They can do it on the ground. They can do it because of their defense, getting turnovers. A great win. The Eagles are 4-0 again for the first time since 2004. We'll see if they can get to 5-0. Next week, it's the Arizona Cardinals, but we're going to keep taking a look at this win against the Jaguars tomorrow. Stock up, stock down. Monday through Friday, we got a show for you on all podcast platforms and YouTube as well. But for today, that's going to do it for Locked On Eagles, the postgame show. Again, the Eagles take it 29-21 over Doug Pederson and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Follow us on Twitter. We'll keep talking birds after the show at Locked On Birds, at DiBiase LOE, and at GC24_football. And thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Make sure your second listen is the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson give you the expert NFL analysis in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. As always, thank you for downloading. Thank you for watching and listening. And let's go Birds.
Fly, Eagles, fly.